Unfortunately, the president just got up and walked out, and we saw a temper tantrum because he couldn't get his way.
He asked Speaker Pelosi that if he opened things up quickly, if he reopened the government quickly, would she be willing to agree to funding for a wall or a barrier on the southern border? And when she said no, the president said goodbye.
Well, if you thought last night's primetime address would lead to a break in the shutdown, I don't know what you were thinking. The bipartisan meeting that the president said last night could solve the problem in 45 minutes ended in about 10 minutes when the president just walked out of the room. He then tried to explain why, of course, on Twitter. Quote, I asked Pelosi, what is going to happen in 30 days if I quickly open things up? Are you going to approve border security, which includes a wall or steel barrier? Nancy said no. I said bye-bye. This less than a day after President Trump addressed the nation from the Oval. After that, Democratic leaders Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer gave their response. All that as the shutdown enters now its 19th day. At least last night, everyone was asking if the addresses might lead to a deal. Instead, they have led, as we just said, to a walkout. For more on the addresses, how they were received, and where they strayed from the truth, and also where the heck we go from here, let's bring in senior political correspondent Andrew Whitman. Andrew, resolve this all in 5 minutes.
Where we go from here? As for last night, there's really no way to beat around the bush about this. Last night was a letdown for just about everyone who was invested in it. Both sides performing well enough or badly enough that each side was able to declare victory, but we really got nothing new content-wise from either address. With no new facts, a lot of people then focused on style, noting that President Trump looked uncomfortable and lacked energy, low-energy Trump, with a lot of people saying these kinds of addresses really do not play to his strengths. But Pelosi and Schumer may have looked even more uncomfortable as they shared a podium but not a speech, so they both ended up making many of the same points. So the only clear loser last night seemed to be the broadcast networks, which spent Monday night and most of Tuesday deliberating whether to carry the president's address live or if it was too political. Almost everyone after the address seemed to agree that the networks made the wrong choice. All right, so then what about the substance of what the president said last night? He certainly kept the fact checkers busy with a number of highly misleading claims, but only a few that were really out-and-out falsehoods. Well, that includes this early claim from Mr. Trump.
The federal government remains shut down for one reason, and one reason only, because Democrats will not fund border security.
Well, that's just demonstrably false. In December, before the shutdown, Republicans and Democrats agreed on a stopgap bill to keep the government open. The House passed those same bills again last week, and they passed them again this afternoon. And of course, the president already had taken ownership of the shutdown.
We don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call. I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And I am proud, and I'll tell you what, I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck.
It must be nice to have a short memory. Mr. Trump also made a bizarre new claim about his wall proposal, which he now says he wants made of steel, not concrete.
As part of an overall approach to border security, law enforcement professionals have requested $5.7 billion for a physical barrier. At the request of Democrats, it will be a steel barrier rather than a concrete wall.
At the request of Democrats, he said. But just this weekend, Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney noted that it was President Trump who offered a steel fence, and Mulvaney used it as an example of how the White House is willing to work with Democrats. So clearly, it was not, as the president said, the Democrats' idea. And then we get to President Trump's fuzzy math when it comes to Mexico paying for the wall.
The border wall would very quickly pay for itself. The cost of illegal drugs exceeds $500 billion a year, vastly more than the $5.7 billion we have requested from Congress. The wall will also be paid for indirectly by the great new trade deal we have made with Mexico.
Well, except a wall won't stop drugs from coming into the country. And as for Mexico indirectly paying, thanks to Trump's new NAFTA, the president's own director of strategic communications refuted that claim just this morning.
So this trade deal, in effect, does help pay for this border security. Let me tell you something. It's $5 billion. Yes, and you know what also taxpayers are paying for? The financial burden of this illegal immigration.
Yeah, but again, taxpayers will pay for the wall. And the president again claimed that undocumented immigrants bring crime with them when they come to the United States. But studies show that undocumented immigrants commit crimes at a lower rate than native-born Americans, and legal immigrants, those are the ones in blue on the charts, commit even fewer. As for misleading claims from the president, there were a lot, including the Democrat-supported barriers in the past, that illegal immigration drives down wages, that the U.S. drug deaths would go down if a wall is built, the stats he offered on criminal immigrant arrests, and again, that the wall will pay for itself. All of those statements from the president last night contained a kernel of truth, but really should not be taken as valid arguments. So where do we go from here? Well, it's hard to say after the president walked out of today's meeting and those nasty post-meeting press conferences. But the president met with Republicans on the Hill today before that meeting, an indication that their support may be fraying, though the president said otherwise this morning.
Tremendous Republican support, and I think we're going to win.
But there's reason to believe that support is fraying. 4 Republican senators have now publicly said they want the shutdown to end, prioritizing that over a wall, while 6 others are now publicly expressing their concerns. Perhaps they've been reading the polls, which continue to show that a majority of Americans oppose a border wall, and why far more Americans blame the president than the Democrats for the shutdown. By the way, 538 says the president's numbers are getting worse, both on the shutdown and his approval rating, while they note that negative numbers for Democrats have remained stable since the shutdown started. But this little proviso, even if 99 senators want to reopen the government, just one, that man, Mitch McConnell, can still block that from happening in the Senate. There are also growing questions about just how invested in the border wall the president really is, despite all his rhetoric. The Times reporting on what Mr. Trump said as he met off the record with news anchors yesterday. He called his own strategy pointless, and he said he didn't want to give the address that he gave last night or go to the border in Texas tomorrow. Quote, "It's not going to change a damn thing," he said, "but I'm still going to do it." He also called the trip merely a photo op, but he said that his advisors told him, well, it'll be worth it. Another escape hatch for the president might be declaring a national emergency. If he does it, he could reopen the government and declare victory, even if, as many expect, any declaration by him would later be struck down by the courts. Meanwhile, it is day 19. The shutdown churns on and the impacts are widening. On Friday, many of those 800,000 impacted federal workers will miss their first paychecks. That will hurt them and the wider economy as their spending slows. And this as even more of the government goes into mothballs. This one's a scary one. The Food and Drug Administration today announcing it has suspended all routine domestic food facility inspections. So who's minding the store? Nah, nobody's checking on your food, Rich.
So I think he's going to declare a national emergency. I don't see he viewing any real political losses. McConnell, fresh off a personal re-election, holding a vote in the Senate, and Democrats having zero incentive to cave on this. I think there's too many immovable objects on this. And for him, the longer, obviously, this goes on, we're going to see real consequences for people. I mean, I'm telling you, I know people that stay home say, oh, whatever. Paychecks aren't coming at the end of this week. It's going to become really real for a lot of people. And then you're going to have guys like us getting sound bites from all these different people saying, what the hell am I going to do? And then our food's not getting checked, longer wait lines here to get our cases heard or, you know, to get through an airport and all these other things, Andrew, that we can't even calculate right now. He's going to have to do something. I say he plays the national emergency card.
And all of those things that you mentioned would contribute to tilting popular support against the shutdown and against the president when it comes to the actions that he's taken. Most of the senators who have expressed concern are up in 2020, the Republicans. McConnell himself is up in 2020. And he does not want to put the president in that position. He thinks it would undermine the president and undermine himself in the Senate. But you know, the national emergency card becomes problematic for the president also because if he fights it in court and gets told that it's not legal, he really has to appeal it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Because otherwise, if he's not showing the same stick-to-itiveness on that he did on the Muslim ban.
We can't go a frickin' day without the news cycle changing. This will take a while to go through the court system, and for the president, with the attention span of a fruit bat, it's going to basically fruit fly. He's basically going to. This will last months, and then he'll say, "Forget it."
Respectfully, I think it would fly through the courts and go to the Supreme Court pretty quickly because it's a national emergency, and that compels quick action. And then he faces the prospect that his own appointees to the court reject him.
We'll see. I believe it'll take a little bit longer. There'll be tons of briefs being filed here. You're right. It will go through an appellate process. Listen, I don't want to be right. It's a scary precedent. I don't care which political aisle you're on. If a president can exert in a manufactured crisis the idea to go around a complete branch of government and then basically use the military however he wants, we're going down to I got to tell you, though, I was not impressed at all by Schumer and Pelosi last night. First of all, can somebody consult somebody to understand how a camera works? It looked, honestly, like a hostage video. The messaging isn't getting home enough. Now, they have a chance to clean it up, but they're not really making the point, we want a stronger border too. We'll do all these things. They're coming off like they're for illegal immigration, which I know they're not. And I think they got to go a little bit harder in terms of how many hundreds of thousands of Americans are being screwed and all the ancillary businesses that will be impacted by the closures.
Meanwhile, I think Schumer is still staring at me as he is in this video. The sense that I got from Schumer and Pelosi is that they were playing prevent defense. They wanted to make no mistakes. And it's very hard to score points and land punches when you're trying to just not make a mistake or not do anything that would otherwise harm your position.
Well, the next flicker of human emotion I see out of the two of them will be the first one. It really looked like there were frozen faces with mouths moving.
I mean, last night, yeah, they really looked bad. Pelosi can come across as being human from time to time. But yeah, and there was conversation about why not do this like a State of the Union, find somebody else to give the address. But these two are the leaders of the Democratic Party, and they're the ones in the meetings with Trump. I think it would have looked bad on them if they had sent anybody else in their place. This is not their strong suit, but then again, it's not Trump's strong suit either, so call it a wash if you want, based on last night.
And you're hearing certain Democrats are getting a little nervous, the freshman class right now, because back in their districts, they haven't gone through this before. They're hearing the heat and the criticism. They got to also stay united front here. So this will be fascinating to watch, but totally unnecessary, to put it politely. Andrew, thank you. Coming up next, as the president shuts down the government over a wall to keep out migrants, some undocumented immigrants who have worked at Trump's golf course in Bedminster, New Jersey, they're coming forward. Now, we spoke with some of them and their attorney. Fascinating answers for what went on one of Trump's properties. Stay with us.